Hey everyone, thanks for joining. My name is Josh and I'm from Modus Create. And today I'm joined by a few of my friends and colleagues at Modus Create, and we're talking about something that's pretty important to us and our jobs, and that's AI and the product development ecosystem, the process, and then the tools themselves. So today we're talking about how we develop apps using AI products and how we develop apps that have AI built in and how that's impacted our jobs and how that's impacted the strategy in which we do things. Some quick intros. Today I'm joined by Wes. He's our senior principal consultant for app engineering. Kailani, who is our senior product manager, and Amanda, our senior managing director for the product development practice. One of the things that I think is the most interesting that we should start with is we just finished our internal experiment around AI tooling. So Amanda, why don't you tell us a little bit about that to start?
Sure. So our AI tooling experiment was quite fun. It really started with a simple question. What if we could deliver high quality software faster at a lower cost without sacrificing the craftsmanship our clients really trust us for? So we launched a bold experiment. We set up two identical teams, one using traditional coding methods and the other we powered with AI tools like Cursor. Both teams were tasked with building the same application. We created identical tickets. So our BA created, user stories for each team, and we tracked essentially everything that we did. Our goal really was to measure the real impact of using AI tooling in software development, from speed and code, quality, all of those things.
Maybe Wes, we'll start with you, kind of get into the details here, because your hands are getting dirty in the actual code. That's your background in working with these tools. I'm sure is a new and different experience for you. Um, A, what was that like for you? And B, like, what is your high level thoughts on these tools in their current state and where they're providing value?
Yeah, I think the word that I'm trying to understand here is mind blowing. Using those tools since the first days of the experiments back in January was amazing. The power, the velocity, and how we managed to deliver things pretty quickly. As a full stack engineer, I have been working with UI front end development for like my entire career, but I never liked it that much, especially around styling CSS. So when we managed to use Figma's MCP to basically ask the AI to look on Figma what the design guys created for us, and then asking AI to create that for us, just to code it without me writing any CSS code was pretty good. And like within a couple of seconds, we managed to build entire pages using that. So I think the word is mind blowing.
Kai, I'll point this next question to you. During the experiment, what kind of impact did we see to kind of efficiency or timelines? And in that efficiency, did you see kind of side effects, like other things that maybe popped up that maybe either were surprisingly good or surprisingly bad?
Yeah, so I think overall, kind of to sum it up, AI tools definitely gave us like a clear speed boost, right? We moved faster, we shipped sooner, but it's not magic. So, onboarding devs and QAs into new workflows, right? Getting environments set up, those things are all still a lift. That said, once we found our rhythm, the payoff was real. We've got the playbook now, and next time we get to hit the ground running even faster. I think to talk about scope and technical debt and quality, I think scope is one of those things where like things get built faster, but AI can also start doing more than you initially asked, or devs might over implement, right? Or AI is filling in the blanks with its own logic again, which goes back to Wes's point about context, but it's not just about context. It's about all of the things that have always existed in product management, but still continue on. So you need to have good requirements. You still need to have clean folders. You need to have good specs, right? And all of that needs to be in a way that's AI readable. So what we kind of learned in scope is to be really, really intentional about what's in scope and what's not. The code can look good. It passes linters, it runs, but it might not handle edge cases or weird states unless the prompt is crystal clear. AI is like a fast collaborator. It's a great first draft, but you still need that second set of eyes. You still need the human in the loop there. And I think to take it out to like pull it back in like maybe product terms, right? Your feedback loop is much tighter. So it's not just like build, ship, done, right? And then wait. It's like build, observe, correct, prompt again, build again, observe, correct, right? Because the AI system or the LLM is also learning at the same time that you're asking it to do things.
Anybody can kind of jump in here, but from your perspective, having touched the tools and started using to see what's kind of working, what's not, if you were going to advise a new, a different development team that's wanting to get started using AI tools, what advice would you give them? Where should they start?
I would say prompt engineering. And when I was learning prompt engineering, I was feeling that it was like a whole different science, right? And I do know that there are many, important tricks here and there. That writing good prompts means write a message that is crystal clear on what you want the AI agent to do, right? I feel that AI agents, at least now, they are like junior engineers working on your team, right? So if I am a senior person in the team asking a junior engineer to do something for me, I'm either writing a Slack message or a Jira ticket. I need to be crystal clear on what I want to happen, what is my expectation.
If you had a team or a company that said, okay, what's the AI tool that we should use, right? What's the first one that we should use? I would probably frame it a different way and say, don't start with what AI can do, start with what's hard for your users, right? There's always, I don't know, there are real problems and messy workflows and overlooked pain points. And then you have to ask yourself, can AI meaningfully improve this? Can it make it better, safer, faster? I think that's where I would start, because I would challenge product teams to stay anchored in human-centered thinking and problem-first framing.
You're basically saying it's not a replacement for anything, and that it's a tool that we can use, but we still need to approach the problems the same way.
Yeah. There are a lot of really cool models out there. I mean, Wes, we've worked with Sonar by Perplexity, Meta's Llama, right? Some OpenAI stuff. And all of them are really awesome, but you can't lead with the model. You lead with the problem and then figure out, has AI earned its right in that solution? It's like a junior teammate, right? It wants to be helpful and it's really, really fast, but it's not fully trained and it doesn't know everything else that you know in your brain. So you have to constantly give it feedback, right? If you're using it in product development or actively in like an SDLC, you need to have your devs give feedback, your QA give feedback, and you need to build check-ins into the flow.
So I think another interesting question, is like, I think over the last 12 months, even 6 months, maybe 3 months, things have changed dynamically, right? And so if we put our positivity hats on, what are our positive expectations for the next 3, 6, 12 months on what these tools will do or how we will use them?
My hope, right, is that product and business analysts and that side of the table really start to design specs that are for humans and AI, right? So they become AI readable. And like one of the beautiful things, Wes, to your credit, is code scales because it's modular. So just imagine that with product thinking, we are creating AI readable product and strategy design specs that are modular blocks, and we're enable versioning of decisions because it's living right next to the code base that devs and the AI tools are working in. Like that's what I'm really excited to see. If AI is my teammate, if it's my junior, teammate that wants to get up to speed, then I want to empower it to read and execute my product intent and allow teams to copy and fork and remix product logic.
The emphasis on clear communication across our industry is going to it's going to be more a recognized skill, like how important it is to be able to clearly communicate what it is that you want or need.
Yeah, I would love a world in which, like, as a product owner and a product strategist, my clarity and my ability to be clear becomes my team's velocity.
I think that it will continue to bridge gaps between teams. So, thinking about, what Kai just explained, AI is really opening up the world where you can do design and implementation, within a single tool. And so I think we're going to continue to see the traditional roles of software development change and evolve. And we're going to have to be ready for it. And we're going to have to upskill and we're going to have to, embrace tooling and embrace how it might change and how it might change how we're developing software.
As far as things that make us uncomfortable with AI, is there things that we see that concern us, trends in the industry, behaviors from the bots themselves?
I think there is a trend that is to get to market so fast, to be able to say that something is using AI, that we are doing all of these things, that we really stop and have kind of thrown off like the ethical checks. And ethics and governance and compliance tend to be things that we bolt on afterwards, and they're not there in every single spot. AI models do experience drift and misuse and unintended outcomes, right? Even with the best of intentions, you can still end up doing harm with it, even though that wasn't your intention. And I'd love to see companies and people at every level, right, and every role really think that, like, fast AI is fine, but not at the cost of blind AI.
We've been talking a lot about the AI tooling, and it's obviously a huge impact to all of us here and how we go about our day-to-day business. But in this experiment, I know that we also built AI powered features into the application itself. So, Kai, why wouldn't you take a second to kind of explain what we built?
Yes, I will. So we built an app that is an AI powered, and I'm going to demystify that in a second and tell you exactly what AI was doing in this app. Essentially, a medical report translator that you could upload a lab report or a health document, and it would turn all of that medical jargon and, values and reference ranges and all of that into clear, easy to understand language, using AI models and natural language processing. So extracting key details from the reports that you uploaded to it, and then translating that into plain terms so that you could understand what each of the lab values or each of the tests you had, what the normal reference ranges were, what things stood out to it, and maybe some conclusions that you could take back and have a meaningful conversation with your healthcare provider.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And personally, there's a few of us on this call that I think can identify with the value that would offer. We talked about what it's like to interacting with agents in the development process. What is it like to build an app where you're integrating with an agent that you don't know how it's going to respond?
Some of the things that I learned in there, that maybe, like, if I were doing this again, I would probably take in to solution design in the very beginning are really clear requirements on the guardrails for the LLM. Like, when we say medically trusted sources, what exactly does that mean? And again, I think it all comes back into what Wes was saying about context and clarity, right? Being able to provide that to whatever LLM you're using, right? Whatever agentic interface. Again, that's going to address scope creep. It's going to address hallucinated logic or defaults, and then, invisible tech debt. If you can clearly define those guardrails and what the agent should be looking at, where it's pulling from, what sources, how it builds all of that.
It's interesting. I think I saw a conversation internally recently where it was like a realization that just as important as telling the AI what to do is telling it what not to do, and like giving it those parameters of where not to go.
And that imposes a challenge. What happens with AI, and depending on the model you're working, is not always 100% sure that there is the information you are receiving makes sense to the information you're sending. It changes, it hallucinates, and how we handle that in the application that doesn't expose that hallucination to the user, it's also important. And that's is a challenge that needs to be worked on.
You need to also specify like fallback behaviors. What do you do when the confidence score is low, AI? Like if you return something and it's not just about giving it that table to say like, okay, only do this when your confidence level is, X and above, but also if it's below, you've got to check on yourself and figure out why it's low. Look at your sources. Are you reading something that isn't there? I think that's another thing where prompting and scripting become collaborative coaching, because the AI doesn't always get it right the first time. And like anything else, right, that's okay. But prompting is iterative, it's conversational, it's context aware.
You need to be crystal clear in communicating your expectation. It needs to be on the substance criteria. It needs to be well taught in the beginning of the development life cycle. What happens if, in the case of this particular app, if AI doesn't understand what is written in the lab report, what happens now, right? What is the fallback operation? How we handle that in the app? We cannot go back to the user and say, hey, this report, we can read that, sorry.
Fail, yeah.
Yeah. We are failing to provide value to the user when we do that. So how we handle that? That's a pretty important question, and it's not an easy question to answer.
There are so many different models. Like even OpenAI has like 15 models to choose from when you're building something. How did we decide or pick a model to use in these applications?
I think if Amanda brought me a project and told me, hey, we need you to help the client figure out what kind of model or what kind of solution they're going to be, after again doing problem first, not model first, and realizing that AI is valuable in that aspect, I would say, what kind of intelligence does the app need? Does it need to reason things? Does it need to summarize things? Does it need to extract? Is it going to generate stuff? Is it math focused? And then what are the safety requirements, right? If depending upon what vertical we're in, right, trust, health, finance, you're going to have to be really, really clear about safety and PII and all of those things. So those, again, you're just going to ask a bunch of questions. And then I think like the non-functional requirements are just as important as the functional ones. What context does it require to function? Does it need to see code, chat history, documentation structure, like Wes pointed out? Are you going to be putting images into it or reports or PDFs? Like what kind of things are going into it?
When you look at the future of AI-powered applications, like what are the good things that we see that we're excited about? What are the things that we're uncomfortable with or concerned about? And if there is one takeaway from this experiment or from the client projects that we've worked on for building AI-powered apps, what are those takeaways?
In terms of takeaways from the AI experiment, for me, it's pretty clear, right? We are changing how we build software and we need to adapt. Those tools are not going to go anywhere, right? So we are learning and we need to continue learning. We need to continue building this familiarity with those tools. Everyone that is a software engineer needs to do that. It's not that we are not going to code anymore, or it's not that we are now being just prompting, or we are going to be out of our jobs. It is about how we make good decisions as software engineers in our daily work to deliver our outcomes faster with higher quality. And I think we are going to be seeing more changes. It's not that it's stopping now, right? So the ability that I really think, and that's my own perception, right? I really think we all need to develop is our ability to ask the right questions. In the past, we would be good because we know answers. Those answers are free for everyone now, right? And it's easy. So whatever you are doing, coding, building a new product, doing a strategy for your company, you can use AI to help you there. as long as you know how to ask a question and as long as you know what you expect in that particular answer. Because sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. So you need to improve that particular skill.
I mean, there are things that I'm excited about, but I think, right, we've identified that the big shift here is that speed is easy now. We can get speed, but speed with clarity and confidence and long-term quality, that's where product still has to lead. So I'm excited that AI lets product teams go from idea to execution faster than ever. Like, let's build faster, but we also have to think faster. We get to validate faster, and we get to collaborate, right, with AI as like real teammates.
I would add one other takeaway is, right, reusable assets and, cross org training are really essential to scale AI effectively. So we've gone through this experiment and we all learned a lot, and we are, establishing best practices and playbooks and, upskilling all of our teams. And we're moving from what we're going to call our experiment phase to really our enablement phase within our teams. And it's really neat to see the innovation that we have across our organization.